hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for coming out, everybody. I'm excited to be here, and I guess that's the benefit of being a host. You get to be the first speaker, so. But I don't think that's the real reason. But I will try to keep us to 10, 15 minutes. I'll talk a little bit about some of the frustrations I have when our slides go and our presentations go a little bit too long. So I'm Ray Velez. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Razorfish. I've been there for about 15 years, so I'm a real old timer. It's been a different company every couple of years. People don't realize we were part of Microsoft. We were part of a Salt Lake City business. I used to be part of Science. So I was down on Union Square, 17th and Broadway. So it's been a wild journey, but we still love what we do. And I still like to think of us as a startup. But at the end of the day, our clients are large enterprises, and that changes the way we behave. And what I want to talk about today is how do we operate with exciting new technologies and more startup agile manners? How do we bring those innovations to large enterprises? Because that's a really hard thing to do. And so what we said back in '95, I think it was either Jeff or Craig, I forget which one of the founders, everything that can be digital will be. But I think what it means today and why we're here talking at Hardwired is everything physical will be digital. And how exciting is it for us to be in New York where you really have kind of the two tentpoles of this movement with our friends at MakerBot and Adafruit and companies like that, really trying to help educate and change the scene here. So it's pretty exciting, but it's hard to innovate with clients who think their whole job's about a browser-based website or responsive design, which is something we constantly hear. But what I love about my job is that we get to bring that thinking to our clients, and that's why they come to us. At least that's what we hope they come to us, is that we're bringing together creative, we're bringing together design, we're bringing together technology to help drive beyond the browser and into the next thing. That's why we got started here, and that's what we do. But there's really tough parts about my job. And one of the toughest parts is, I had a much pithier slide on how I was going to say this, but of course I had to tone it down because I didn't want to make any of my customers angry. But at the end of the day, when you work with a large company, you have to take on the dysfunctions of a large company, right? They have large structures, large decisioning process, year-long budgeting cycles. It's hard for them to be part of new technologies and new capabilities. I always love how when you work with a large organization, they'll have a set of enterprise technology standards and really insist that you don't change those standards. But then they'll also have 4 or 5 different standards for the same thing. And they'll also have on their roadmap for different standards. So there's been times where we've built and rebuilt things just to fit within standards. And that's really hard in this world where technologies are constantly changing. A standard is to some degree meaningless, right? Beyond understanding the HTTP spec, I mean, you don't need to be stuck thinking about standards because there's a brilliant thing out there. You can retrain your folks. You can change your standards. And they're designed to move much more slowly, right? Large companies have bureaucratic structures. So if you want to get a decision or you want to get input, that design is not built for that, right? It's not built like a startup. But there's pockets of innovations, and you see the powerful disruptive change that technology is forcing, just making companies think about different ways of doing things, right? And different ways of approaching their work, different budgeting cycles, different ways to software development. And I'll just give a couple quick examples on what that might be today. So buy and integrate. So we were fortunate enough to work with AT&T, and they bought a startup called Zambu, right? So that's why I think a lot of folks would be here today, is create a way for your startup to help fill an enterprise need. And then really smart organizations are using those as accelerators. And so that's the technology behind Digital Life. So people always remember the commercials. I don't have cable, so I don't see these commercials. But the commercial where the father's talking to his son, I guess, and he has to turn off all the lights and the faucet and stuff. So that's what we were able to work on, and it was really great stuff. So the Zambu technology was using Zigbee and X10 standards, had this great platform for bringing that all together. And I think there's so much more exciting things happening there. So you want to be a leader in that space, and that was a great approach for AT&T to do that, was to go out and then build it in. I was really fortunate enough to work with the Bundle team. It's a New York City startup, and it was a joint venture between the world's largest bank, Citi, and the world's largest software company, Microsoft. We were part of Microsoft at the time. So as you can imagine, that would be kind of tough to get something off the ground. But what Citibank had, which was really amazing, and you see this in a lot of the things they do, they had an innovation team that was looking at ways they need to disrupt and change their business. So what the innovation team did was they had a mantra, and Jaidev, who's the CEO, and they're here just, they're down in Silicon Alley Bundle. When we first started working with him, he came from the innovation team, and he's like, look, Ray, we need a way to help our customers save well and spend well, right? Our customers, we make money when customers overdraft their checking account or when it's a penalty. We need to change that dynamic, and this is what came out of that. So they took the massive rich data set that they have around transactions and used big data tools like NoSQL databases and Hadoop technologies to help become, in essence, a better Yelp, a better way to help people save well and spend well, to drive insights based on real-world transaction patterns, as opposed to a snarky foodie who's complaining about the restaurant down the street on Yelp. So just a really amazing way to do it by building an innovation team, and the innovation team's looking through the nooks and crannies in the business to create new ways. And then we've recently done this. This is really exciting for South by Southwest. And what we've done is we've partnered, right? And we actually partnered a little bit with Citibank on this, but our big partner here was Adobe. And we wanted to experiment. We wanted to do something new and different. And so what we did was, and we launched this last year, and then we relaunched it even bigger this year because it was such a big success. So we took about 50 bikes, and what we did to start with, and we had very grand plans, right? So we were going to take, I talked to the developers when they started off with this work. We were going to take an Arduino board, and we were going to put in a whole bunch of different sensors, which we did end up doing. But we were going to have these ultrasonic tones that would have the bikes talk to each other, and we would need these, and it was like total scope creep. It was crazy over the board. And what we ended up doing, and I'll talk a little bit what's in there for this year, is we have an Arduino board. It has a piezo sensor, it has a GPS sensor, and then this year we partnered with Qualcomm too. So to help fund and ideate on this, it has a gimbals beacon as well. So we put all of this into the bikes. And then if you can go to useMeLeaveMe.com, and you can see how we actually connected this to a voice as well. So we then connected it to another enterprise technology, the Adobe Experience Manager technology, and that allowed us to tweet about the bikes, right? Because last year when we did it, everybody was like, oh, everybody's just going to steal the bikes, and this is just a waste of time. So it was not only an Arduino-enabled project, but it was also a bit of a social experiment. And last year was fantastic. No one really stole the bikes. One bike we noticed was on his way to Mexico after the first or second day. And they were tweeting about, oh, it's 10 miles outside of Austin, 20 miles. Oh yeah, this one's not coming back. But at least last year we had also connected to a solar panel to keep it running. And we had the bikes running the whole event last year. But this year, I think because of rain and darkness, Austin, it didn't work out so well. So the batteries died on the third day, and we were a little sad. But it was all part of our experiment and part of our learning, and we never would have gotten it off the ground with our partners. I mean, of course, we made our tech team work nights and weekends, and they had 1 week to do what should have taken 3 weeks. But it was absolutely fantastic and a ton of fun. So we can hang around and we'll answer any questions. I have Wasan Sundar, who's the tech lead in our Austin office. He just happened to be in New York. And he stopped by to say hello, and I said, oh, you got to come with me to this event in case I get Arduino questions I won't be able to answer. But here's a picture. And this is looks like the stuff I use in my house to keep the cold out. But we have the board, the sensor, all protected right in the bikes. And it was really inexpensive. I mean, one of the big benefits of using Arduino and things of that nature, you don't really have to spend a ton of money to be able to experiment and try new ideas here. And then we had a hackathon around the event too. We're trying to think about ways that we can extend this to maybe some suggestions that we could bring back to the city for the city bikes work and all that fun stuff. So it's a great way to do it. And if you're stuck in an enterprise where it's really hard to do these things, find partners who can work with you, help fund these efforts and make these things happen, which is really exciting. And then another thing we've done, I'm checking on time, got a couple minutes, is we've built products. And products are great ways to innovate because they become jumping off points. And these are software products, right? So what we've done in some places, this is a picture of our Fluent product, is just take technology that usually takes 6 to 8 weeks to get up and running on servers and running, and just throw it on the cloud and then productize that. So we use Chef scripts and Arduino scripts, and we're very quickly driving towards productization. So the next time we need to do something that's very innovative, we do it as part of the concept and the ideation process. We don't have to have a separate project and a separate budget. So the next one is the last video, and I'll finish right on time. this was a lot of fun for us. I'll introduce the video before I talk to it. And what's kind of interesting is when I see the video now, it looks a little bit like it's still a little bit ahead in the future, but it was something we did 2 years ago for originally for the London Olympics. So we worked with a couple of different interesting emerging technologies in the space. One of the key ones you'll see is the Microsoft Kinect technology. We worked with a company in the city that has these tactile technologies, so it allows you to step and control your interface. We had a 30-foot video wall. And this was all done to help Audi create the dealership of the future. So it's called Audi Cities. The first version, which was launched for the Olympics in London, is in Piccadilly Circus, and it's the world's first carless showroom. It's had huge return on investment, and it's using all of these almost Minority Report-like technologies that we thought are really, really far out there, and we've been able to productize. So there's NFC, RFID, uses the Microsoft Surface Touch table with connectivity from your mobile device to the table. There's a 30-foot high-definition video wall that uses gesture and touch as well. And we've done bits of this in other places too. So if you're in Chicago on Michigan Avenue, you can see AT&T's flagship store, and it has some of these same elements as well. But it's a lot of fun, and the video shows really well, but it just shows that a lot of these technologies are here today. So I'll play the video, and then I'll stick around after the event for questions and conversations, I guess. That's it. So I guess we'll take questions at the end, right? Yeah, but that was actually the Beijing launch. We launched Audi Cities in Piccadilly first, then Beijing, and San Francisco's coming next. So thanks for coming out.
Very cool. Thank you so much. We can probably take a couple of questions now.
Yeah, sure.
Curious, startups around here, is there a way they can engage with you guys, or what would?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're trying to connect out through a couple of different mechanisms. One of the biggest ones, we just talked about this in Forbes and with a couple other folks, is we really love this concept of a really buttoned up hackathon event. So we do, and there's a couple different ways to do that. I've been a judge at some of the other, like Rally NYC and some of the other events. So we do partner with Girls Who Code, Rally NYC and others, and then we mix that with Razorfish and Digitas and other folks. And it's just a great way to force yourself to do things like we did with South by Southwest, where you get the cross-disciplinary minds together and hold an event that then we ask our clients to come and judge. And so we mix the teams up, industry folks, people within Razorfish, Digitas, and other sister agencies, and then hold the event. And usually they're for about 24 hours. So that's a great way to, one of the favorite.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think we should have a microphone somewhere. If Andrew here said he was fast-footed.
You know what we need is a drone, right? Like,
yes.
Drop the microphone in your lap.
And could you just start?
My name's Matthew. I'm from Fashion GPS. What do you think is the most successful way to get large enterprises to become early adopters? What's your convincing strategy?
I'm still working on it, right? That's why we're constantly changing. You know, I think some of the things, it's easier with an enterprise like Audi, right? So if you saw that last thing we always talk about, their brand is advancement through technology, so it made more sense to them. So at the end of the day, I haven't figured out how to convince brands where it doesn't always align with their brand strategy, right? Easier with Audi. If I try to bring that idea to a large insurance company, it takes a little bit longer, but that's starting to change. I think when I look at the successes, it has been with pockets of organizations that are chartered with that. So I do have some success that we have in place going on with the large financial services company we can't talk about, and it was with their innovation team, right? And if you look at the Citibank stuff, the work we did at Bundle, it was with their innovation team. So it's connecting with the people who it's their charter to do. And because it's much harder, if somebody sets their goals to their boss at the beginning of the year and, you know, this is what we're going to do for the next year, they don't want to do anything else, right? Because they're not going to hit what they told everybody they're going to do. So the other thing we are trying to do is really just change the way large, and I hinted at this, large brands budget and execute, right? Like, so they're used to, especially in these emerging areas, and they go back to the old software development model. I'm going to go build something, launch it in 6 to 9 months. And so what we're trying to change is they think about your budget a little bit more malleable and use it in an agile and iterative way, put together a product backlog, launch every couple of weeks, and then change. And so we actually built a course, we call it Scrum for Teams, and we take traditional software development and change it to work if you're a large company. And add, like, you know, you have engineers for the Scrum and Agile training capabilities, but you never have a designer or a product manager. So we add those other roles in. And that's one where I have some hope, but the most practical way is to connect with the innovation teams.
Thank you so much. Thanks for